Xin chào, welcome to Heritage Vietnamese Cuisine. I'm Chef Wei Chan Carls. I'm the chef owner of Alchemy Restaurant and Open Kitchen Culinary Tour to Vietnam. You can find us in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and today I will be showing you 3 dishes very indigenous of the Vietnamese culture that give stories about where rice comes from and how we can use rice in various forms of cooking. Our first dish will be our Vietnamese spring rolls, the very famous spring rolls using rice paper. Our second dish is our bánh xèo, which is a sizzling rice flour crepe inspired by the French. And for dessert, we're making our Vietnamese glutinous rice mochi balls with ginger sauce and coconut milk. And let's get started. So we're gonna get started with our Vietnamese spring rolls, and we will take the mystery out of making these delicate, fresh spring rolls that are made with rice paper. As you can see here, very, very translucent, very elegant, very fragile, but we're gonna make it so that you can roll up and have them as an appetizer. Today we're doing a portobello mushroom spring rolls with the Vietnamese rice vermicelli, and lots of beautiful herbs. And then we'll make a peanut hoisin dipping sauce. Again, vegan, totally delicious, vegan, gluten-free as an appetizer. Okay, so first what we're gonna do is that we're gonna be sauteing and getting our mushroom ready. So you can simply use, I love using a cast iron because it really gives a lot of heat and grill tasting to whatever you're making. So we use the Vietnamese, we use primarily pure vegetable oil so that it does not affect any of the other flavors. Probably a medium-high heat. And we'll just simply put these mushrooms that I have cut into a 1/4 inch mushroom, simply put those into the cast iron. And while it's doing that, what we're gonna do is our peanut hoisin dipping sauce. And as you can see here, we have mise en place everything, meaning that we have prepared all of the ingredients and measured it out. I'm gonna take my recipe here, but it's very, very easy. Again, we will be putting and sauteing up, first and foremost, all the aromatics. So while our portobello mushroom is searing on our hot cast iron grill, we're gonna get started to make our peanuts hoisin dipping sauce. Again, this is totally gluten-free, vegan, and it's gonna be delicious. So we want to prepare, the first thing is getting all the aromatics heated up. So we have the first of our aromatics would be our ginger, shallots, and garlic. So we're gonna put in the ginger first. It's a more sturdy, that can stand the heat. Next, we're gonna put in our shallots, and then some garlic. So we're gonna get these fragrant, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. If you're here in our studio, you can smell all the amazing fragrance that's coming up. Once that is sauteing and getting fragrant, I'm gonna check on our portobello mushroom. As you can see, just so that it's a little malleable so that we can roll the spring rolls, okay? So that seems to be cooked up well. And you can definitely make these rolls with fresh mushroom as well. So we're back to our peanut hoisin sauce making. Add a little more vegetable oil. And next we're going to add into this just peanut butter. I love getting peanut butter that is chunky so that there's already, so you don't have to add chopped peanuts into it. So this is a 1/2 cup of peanut butter, followed by a 1/2 cup of hoisin. It's very thick And you'll just want to then lower the temperature and then start sauteing, stirring in the sauteed aromatics with the chunky peanut butter and hoisin. And as you're doing this, you can stir in some water, just to the thickness and the liquidity that you would prefer. So as you can see here, it is getting all blended together, and the color is getting a nice auburn, rich color. And if you wish, you can also add in a little garlic hot sauce, or you can do it afterwards. But it's pretty much, that's it. It's a very, very basic recipe that I have used in our restaurant, Alchemy in Santa Fe, as well as catering jobs that we've done over the years, and people love it. All I would have to do is just add a little more water, and you can just feel this out. But I would venture to say it's about a quarter cup of water to be added. Okay, so just let that stew away, and we will make sure that all the ingredients are blended. So definitely you would want to have a taste at this point. Great, it's still a little tad thick. So again, I'm just gonna add some more water. And once that is done, we can just simply have it aside for dipping, because you want it to be room temperature and not hot. We'll let that go for now, and then what we're going to do is turn our attention to making the actual spring rolls. And we're back. So our peanut hoisin sauce has been completed. We're now going to get to the most fun and perhaps complicated process of rolling the actual spring rolls. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way so we can have some more room. And the best trick that I've learned in making these spring rolls is that these are rice paper, but you need to make sure that when you shop for these papers, you need to make sure the ingredients has some tapioca in addition to rice flour, because that'll give it more of a malleable ability for us to roll without it being ripped and so forth. Okay, so again, these are manufactured rice paper, but you can see that they've kept the traditional pattern bamboo trays that in the olden days when Vietnamese would be making these spring rolls out of rice flour and water and churning it. They would steam it over a hot pot with a cloth, and then gingerly take it out and then place it onto a bamboo sheet tray. So that's why it has these patterns. But now everything is manufactured in the factory, but they still honor the pattern. Okay, so what we are going to do is I'm going to show you how best to make the spring rolls. For those who have stainless steel countertops or granite countertop, it's a really great way to make sure that your countertop is clean. We'll wet this countertop. We will also want to wet the paper, the rice paper, by simply having a bowl of water, room temperature, and just dipping it in like this, circulating it, giving it a little bath, just 2 rounds, and then placing it onto the counter. Okay? And let it kind of get soaked, maybe about 30 seconds. And what we want to do is to have all of our beautiful fresh herbs. The Vietnamese cuisine has one of the most distinctive way of using all fresh ingredients. So we want to have lettuce, and try to get lettuce that are leaf lettuce, butter lettuce that is soft so that you can roll. Okay, so as you can see, I have the spring rolls wet sitting on this counter. I want to first place the nicer looking side of the lettuce at the bottom. Then let's pick some mint, some cilantro, kind of be sparse. As I say, you know, this is Vietnamese spring rolls. They're not burritos. So we are going to make sure that they are equal size so that we can roll them. Next, we will place the portobello mushroom that we just seared, 1.5, with some cut up carrots, scallions. So you can cut them into the size, maybe 3 inches, so that you can place them right onto the rolls there. Next, we're gonna also place a little bit of the rice vermicelli. Again, this is another form of rice. This is the dry vermicelli that I've cooked maybe just a couple minutes. We want it to be al dente and not mushy. So we will have we lay maybe about this much, a little pinch. Again, we want to make sure that we can roll it and not it to be too fat in the middle. So here, make sure that your hand is somewhat wet. We place all of the contents 2/3 of the way down. So many people have different ways of doing it. My way is that I would bring the sides in. Okay, you can see that they're already sticking, but that's part of the charm of making these rolls. So you bring in the sides, and you got to really be using all of your fingers. Then you bring the top down, and as you can see, the effects of tapioca is really helping us, making sure that the rice paper doesn't break. So once you have your sides in and your top down, the actual counter is really helping keeping it going. So as I'm rolling, I'm pushing it up because we want to make sure that the roll is very tight. So rolling, pushing, rolling, pushing, rolling, pushing, and there you have it, okay? So once we have these, we want to do is just lay them on a platter like this, and then have a wet cloth over them so that they don't get dry up. Okay, so I'm now gonna wet the cloth right into in my bowl here. And of course, this is very similar to making sushi, where all the chefs are using their bare hands because it is not possible, and I've tried, to making these with gloves. So you'll just want to, don't wet like a paper towel. You'll always want to use like a kitchen towel. Okay, so let's do it again. Again, we take our rice paper, wet it to go rounds, and then place it onto the counter, like a little wet counter. Okay? And as that is being softened, we can lay out all of our ingredients. And this is very versatile, as you can see. So if you would like to have beef or chicken grilled or shrimp, it's a great way of doing this. It's also a fun party where instead of just coming and eating, you can host a make your spring rolls party where everybody can have their own ingredients and then roll their own so that it fits their preferences, and it's a fun activity for dinner. Okay, so again, we lay out all of our beautiful vegetables and herbs, add the mushroom, and again, we don't want it to be too much because it'll be very difficult to roll. And then add some of the rice vermicelli. Again, you can feel that it's soft after a minute of sitting. Bring in the sides, bring in the top, over the top, down, and then just keep on rolling. This is a little wet, but it'll be fine. Roll and push it up so that you get a really tight roll. Okay, so here we are. And again, you keep on doing this. These can last, if you're making this for a party, it's definitely not gonna last overnight because it's gonna be all dried up. It's not gonna be good for eating, but it can definitely stay in the refrigerator covered like this for about half a day. So what we're now gonna do is begin plating our rolls with the hoisin peanut sauce that we made. So we can uncover these, cut it in diagonal, And make sure that the knife is very sharp. Plate them as such with the dipping sauce that we made in here as such. Or if you want to get more creative, you can have the sauce right onto the plate and maybe add some of the herbs that we were using as such. Or you can also cut these but let it set a little bit and cut them into little sushi rolls. So we would just, on a roll like this, you can cut them in 4 little pieces. You can cut the ends off. And then cut them into 2. And again, into 2. So you can plate them like this. As you can see, we want to use a lot of colors. So the carrots add some colors. You can add in there, if you wish, red cabbage and so forth. So you can see that some break, and that's totally fine. We can use it and taste that, but this is basically the first dish that we have. And now we're gonna move on to our second recipe using rice flour in our dish. And we're back for our second dish that really highlights another way that the Vietnamese use rice. And rice being a very, very important staple in the Vietnamese cuisine and culture. I don't know if you all know, but Vietnam is one of the largest exporter of rice in the whole world. In taking groups to Vietnam, as I have done with my open kitchen culinary escapade for 4 years now, we've traveled from north to south by way of the central region, and every part of Vietnam cultivate rice. And it's beautiful fields of rice, but the most predominant rice growing area is in the Mekong Delta. If any of you have been to Vietnam, you'll see and know that rice is very important, not only for the Vietnamese cuisine, but also a symbol of fertility, prosperity, abundance. And so at every home, literally when you go, there'll be bags of rice. And that is a sense of safety net, abundance, and people are very, very proud of the rice culture. And so what we're doing today is our bánh xào. Bánh is anything that is has texture, a weighty texture like bread. We're doing a crepe. Bánh xào is a sizzling. Xào is like sizzling. It's a French influence crepe. And the Vietnamese have Vietnamized the French way of making crepe by substituting wheat flour with rice flour. And what we are, so rice in Vietnam, 2 types of grain, basic grain. One is our long, medium grain that is like jasmine rice. The other is glutinous rice or sweet rice or sticky rice. So glutinous is not gluten, it's just the stickiness of the rice. And so what we're using today to making our bánh xào, which is the sizzling crepe, is that we're using the rice flour that's been milled. And so when a wonderful episode of my culinary journey to Vietnam is I had the pleasure of actually milling the rice into a slur with water. And from that, you create a variety of different dishes. So for this bánh xào, the recipe is that we use a 1.5 cups of rice flour. And you can buy these in our Asian store. This red package is always the regular rice flour. And adding to it is tapioca. And again, as we saw earlier in our making of the spring rolls, the tapioca gives it a more flexible texture so that it binds it and it's doesn't break. Okay, so we will add to this 3 tablespoons of tapioca starch, 3 tablespoons of turmeric is what gives the bánh xèo the yellow tint. Some of you have had bánh xèo if you lived in Vietnamese populated area or even in Vietnam. And if you have traveled to Vietnam, you can see that the bánh xèo has various sizes depending upon where you travel. So in Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, you can see that the bánh xèo are just huge. When you go up further in this central area, it may be smaller in size. It's the same, but different motto that we always say. A little salt, about 1/4 teaspoon. And then we will add in it our coconut milk. And you can get coconut milk, not cream. So it's a coconut milk, just 1 can. And a trick is that in order to have a fluffy texture of the crepe, we add in seltzer, soda water, or even beer into this. So we will have 3 cups of the seltzer water. And this will yield about 10 to 12 large size crepe. I ran out of the soda, so I'm just adding a little bit of the regular water. What we're gonna do is add a little bit of a tablespoon of vegetable oil as well. Stir it all, similar to making crepe or pancake. Okay, so you're gonna make sure that you have all of the rice flour dissolved into this liquid. And as you can see, it's a very loose batter, looser than the normal French crepe, and definitely more liquidy than pancake. Now that everything is blended and stirred, and as you can see, it has this beautiful golden color because of the turmeric that's used. So we'll set that aside. And next, the Vietnamese bánh xèo always goes with the dipping sauce. And the dipping sauce that I'm going to show you is a recipe that my mother had when we had our own restaurant in Lansing, Michigan. As refugee, many of the Vietnamese, for the love of country, the memories, making their own food when 50 years ago, almost, there were no Vietnamese restaurants. So many refugees create their own restaurants. First, let's talk about fish sauce. So the fish sauce, Vietnam, again, is the second, if not first, the largest exporter of fish sauce. And we're very proud of the ingredients. It has only basically 2 ingredients, anchovies and salt. So rock salt. Anchovies are found in Phu Quoc, which is an island southeast of Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. And that is really where they would fish for the anchovies. And then they would layer anchovies and rock salt, and have it be a fermented process in barrels, big barrels. And the dripping of the sauce, the fermented sauce, the first press, if you will, very similar to the Italian olive oil. The first press is the best press, okay? And so I'm very proud to say that we are using and now have Red Boat, which is a Vietnamese manufactured fish sauce out of Phu Quoc. And as you can see, this little number here, some fish sauce that you may buy and see in the store may not have this indicator. So the 40% N, nitrogen, the higher the number, it shows that there is a quality of content, namely more of the anchovies, then watering it down. So we'll take a 1/3 cup of fish sauce, distilled vinegar, so simple white vinegar, a 1/3 cup of sugar, cane sugar, and a cup of water. And we'll add to it a little garlic. If you like lots of garlic, you can add more, but pretty much 1 tablespoon. We will add to it also 1 tablespoon of lime juice. And for those who love spices, we have these gorgeous bird's eye chili that you can add fresh chilies to the dipping sauce. Okay, so that's very easy. It's a formula recipe that I have remembered and are using to this day at my restaurant, El Camino in Santa Fe. So let's just have that to the side. And we're now going to be making, prepping the making of the bánh xèo. Okay, welcome back. So we've moved to our gas stove because the sizzling rice crepe needs a sizzling effect. And the best way is to cook it with a gas stove. We are now going to be adding a scallion chopped into the batter that has been sat for a little bit. As you may recall, this batter is made with rice, flour, tapioca, turmeric, coconut milk, seltzer water to kind of give it that bounce. So now we have a hot pan, non-stick, over high heat with vegetable oil. And we're going to be putting onto this, again, it is to your discretion, but we're going to be using shrimp. We've halved these shrimp and just place it onto the hot pan. I'm going to put about 6 halves, flipping it a bit. Adding, you could do chicken, tofu. The traditional way is with pork belly that I've already blanched onto here. Red onions, some squash to give it some colors, and zucchini. Okay, so now basically it's going to be, we're sauteing this, making sure our vegetable is cooked and spreading the vegetable out. So then we're going to begin to pour the batter over all of this. So whenever you begin, want to make sure that you stir the batter so that all of the flour is continued to be mixed. So you can hear that sizzling effect. That's what we're talking about, the bánh xèo. As it's cooking, we want to make sure that the heat is high. And for those who've traveled to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, one of our favorite places to get bánh xèo is called Bánh xèo 46 Dinh Công Tráng. And they just are acknowledged on the 2nd year that the Michelin organization has been to Vietnam. So they're on the Michelin guide for the best bánh xèo in Saigon. So as you can see, the bánh xèo is sizzling away and you can hear it. If you've been to Vietnam and have had bánh xèo at this Bánh xèo 46 Dinh Công Tráng that just got a Michelin acknowledgement, they would pour oil over the sides to create that sizzling effect. And as you can hear, it's sizzling away. So just like any crepe, you can see that it looks like an omelet actually because of the turmeric, but there is no egg in here whatsoever. So as it's cooking, cover it, make sure everything is cooked. So we can cover it like that. No worries about the high heat. It's supposed to be crunchy, sizzling, and the way to do that is really a lot of heat over the stove. We're using a non-stick pan. And the traditional way is that once the interior is cooked, you'll want to flip it. So we're waiting for that a little bit. We will be right back. And we're back. At this point, you can see that the edge of the crepe is really sizzling. Okay, so you want it to have a crispy edge and nice and soft, chewy in the middle. The typical way that we would be doing this would be to flip it like an omelet. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. So simply, you just flip it, and then what we'll do is have it onto a plate as such. And then we're gonna be adding olive herbs, our dipping sauce in, and eat it in the traditional way that we do. Okay, we're back. So we now have taken our crepe that we have prepared, and now I'm gonna show you how to eat it in the traditional way that we do. Okay, so we have our dipping sauce that we made. We traditionally will have beautiful large lettuce, and because we're gonna wrap it essentially in the lettuce. So we'll lay all this lettuce with fresh herbs, cilantro, we have mint, bean sprouts, like such. And if it's still very crispy, and that's exactly what you want, okay? So as you are preparing the dish, once again, we want a lot of flavors because that is represented in all the different colors, greens. So this would be a plate that you would be presenting to each person. And how they would eat it is that we would take a lettuce like this, and by hand, we would break our crepe into chunks like this, place it onto the lettuce, and add whatever you desire. Bean sprouts, herbs, and then it's like a little lettuce wrap. So you would wrap it and then dip it into this sauce, okay? So let us, bon appetit. Let me show you how delicious this is. Delightful. This is a great summer dish because it's so flavorful, and we take advantage of all of the fresh herbs, lettuces that we have. So thank you so much. We're on to our dessert course next. Welcome back. We are now at the last of our 3 dishes, and probably the best, one of the best. It's our dessert, our sweet treat. Again, in playing with the theme of the many faces of rice, we're going to be using glutinous rice flour. So as you may recall, there are 2 main types of rice varietal. One is the jasmine, or just more starch, and the other is glutinous, where it is sticky to begin with. And so we are making a Vietnamese version of the mochi balls, okay? And what are special about this, it's called the da joy nước. The Vietnamese, unlike European cultures, we don't eat cakes and brownies and cookies and such for dessert. We primarily use either fresh fruit or this concept of ja, which is sweet soup. So we're gonna make the mochi balls using glutinous rice flour. And the specialness of this dish that I've kind of created, because I just love the effects of the butterfly pea flour. And these are actual butterfly pea flour that I purchased in Vietnam, in Saigon market, and brought back here for us to use. And as you can see, it's a natural, beautiful violet color. So I've just put 20 of these flours into hot water and let it steep for half an hour. And look at this gorgeous color effect. And so instead of just using regular water to make our mochi balls, I have infused the water with the butterfly pea flour. And talking about infusing, one of our very favorite cocktails at Alchemy, our restaurant in Santa Fe, is an infused vodka pea flour. We make a great Moscow Mule with it. But now, so as you can see, we have this blue color, butterfly pea flour, and we're going to be adding it into our glutinous rice flour. We have 2 cups of this and about 3 1/4 cups of the water. And basically that's it. You just add this and we'll be kneading the flour with the water and we'll be kneading it. It feels like chalk. If you need more water, we can always add more water. And as you can see, the rice flour and the butterfly pea flour infused water has created this blue, kind of a light blue dough. It's very sticky, so you'll want to make sure that you have wet hands for the next part. But as this can be brought onto the counter and just kneading it, such, kind of like Play-Doh effect, okay? So you can just knead it. It does not need to be kneaded that much, in a way where it's very smooth and that all of your paste on the hand would be disappearing into the ball, okay? So just knead it along like this. And next, we simply roll it into tiny little balls. And we're gonna be cooking this and then making the ginger brown sugar syrup and a coconut cream to go with it. So keep in mind, as I mentioned, the Vietnamese, this is one of the basic favorite recipe for dessert, which is the sweet soup, any version of sweet soup. So now we have these balls. We're just gonna grab a little ball like this and make it into balls, okay? And we have our water boiling, and we will simply drop it into the hot water, okay? So we will, sometimes, this is like the easy way out, but sometimes if you want to get fancy, what we would also do is to actually put something in the middle, whether it's coconut paste, chocolate even, mung bean paste in the middle. But this is very simple. It's simply just round of mochi balls. And the mochi balls will be chewy because of the glutinous rice flour that we're using. Okay, so while I'm making these balls, and we can come back to them, I'm gonna get started in making the warm ginger sauce. Okay, so basically I have here on the stove 3 cups of water, and we're going to add to it ginger, about 1 tablespoon. We have 1 cup of brown sugar, very simple, and we will let that simmer back to the mochi balls. Very simple. This is something that if you have children at home, definitely it's something that we can get the family all together and making these mochi balls. And as the water is getting hot, we can begin dropping the balls into the hot water. And how you know that they're done is that they will float. Okay, so once you drop the balls in, it'll sink because they're kind of heavy. But once they're done, you can see that they're done because they're floating. Okay, so you can make these balls in different sizes, but make sure that all the same sizes go in at the same time so that they cook at the same period. Okay, so that's another trick that we'll use. Okay, so now we'll just drop these balls in. So it's basically sinks to the bottom, and then once they are done, they'll float to the top, okay? So as that is being cooking, we'll check back into our ginger syrup. Already smell the fragrance of the ginger infusing into this brown sugar liquid. And it doesn't have to go for long, but if you wish it to be more syrupy, you can certainly do that. But it's about 5 minutes on the stove. And this should be done, and we can go to our next sauce, which is the coconut. So now we can just pour it onto a bowl and just let it cool. And for our coconut sauce, we'll be using a can of coconut milk, and we can use it in the same pot, skillet here. So 1 can of coconut milk, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and a little salt, 1/4 teaspoon. And the sugar and salt effect really intensifies the flavoring. So that is very simple. You just cook this over medium heat and make sure that all of the sugar and salt are dissolved into the coconut milk, okay? While that is simmering, I'm checking on my mochi balls. They're still cooking away. It has yet to float. So while that is waiting, we just want to recap the fact that over 3 of our dishes, we've been using all different types of rice, not rice in savory, the way that we would eat with chicken and so forth, but rice in a different way. So it's a many faces of rice is the theme of this cooking. First, we have our spring rolls that we use rice paper with the rice vermicelli. Second dish is our bánh xèo, where we use the rice flour and we add that with coconut milk and make that into a crepe instead of wheat flour. We also use turmeric, right? And now in our last dessert, we are using glutinous rice flour that has a sticky factor into mochi balls as our dessert. So you can see that rice is so versatile. It is so important to the Vietnamese culture, and it is so variety oriented, so that you can pretty much have rice every day, which the Vietnamese do, in very different ways. So you can see here that the coconut milk is pretty much done. We just need to have it warm. It does not have to do anything other than that. It's a very, very simple recipe, needing 3 different components coming together. And I can see that the mochi balls are rising slowly onto the hot water here. And I'm gonna prepare it by just grabbing a bowl right here, and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do with it. And the mochi balls, if you have leftovers, you can always saran wrap it and then freeze it, okay? What we'll do is that basically as the balls are floating, and you can always make a lot of these and then store it in an airtight container in the refrigerator. But as they are floating, we will just take them out. Let's just say we'll have 5, okay? We would put a little bit of the ginger syrup, ginger, brown sugar. So again, chả is a sweet soup for dessert. And then just dollop a little bit of the coconut milk, and that is your dessert. So thank you for enjoying our experience to bring heritage Vietnamese cuisine to your table. And these are very, very simple recipes for making at home. Thank you so much for joining me today as we cook 3 of our favorite dishes in the Vietnamese culture. We have our spring rolls with portobello mushroom and vermicelli, rice vermicelli, dipping sauce of peanut and hoisin. We have our crepe, Vietnamese style from the French tradition. We use rice flour with crepe, with our shrimp and pork belly, a Vietnamese dipping sauce made of fish sauce, and last we have our Vietnamese mochi balls infused in a butterfly pea flour to give it a blue effect with ginger sauce and coconut milk. You can find me, Chef Wei Chen Carls, at my restaurant Alchemy in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We have a website, alchemy-santafe.com, as well as Instagram, alchemy.santafe. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be cooking with you.